Okay. Well, welcome again to another cat conversation. And today we have with us Charlie Inman, who who we came to know each other through David Schofield and his Purpose in Action program that we've both been benefiting from over the last few weeks. And so as part of that, we got into a conversation about how we can help each other and what we're both into. And I've got to say that the list of what you're into, have a look at this, it's massive. And it's also stuff that just makes me kind of go,
It's all fun. Like it can get quite complicated, but more it's like, I feel like anyone that actually could understand it, really. If they just researched it, it's something that everyone could sort of grasp at least a concept of.
Well, this is going to be a great test for that.
Okay.
See if you can filter through my brain and through their brains the stuff that you're into, because it's pretty epic. But maybe before we get to that, let's start off with the groundwork.
Yeah.
Like, who is Charlie Inman? How did he come to be the being that we see before us now? What's been your journey through life?
Well, I did never like school, because it was, I remember, like, I think it's probably my first memory was saying to my, like a teacher, I'm not going back here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, second day of school, I was 4 years old, second day of school. Obviously I came back for over 12 years, so it didn't quite work out.
Right.
Parents had a lot of sway back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, sort of, I mean, I was quite good at school, tried quite hard. I was always finishing work sort of, like it'd be 30 minutes left of class or something, so I'd just sort of be sitting there, and then I'd just get into computers a bit.
Right.
But I was sort of, like a bit of a loner, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had friends, I don't mind, I just never minded just being sitting by myself, just thinking about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of just, not exactly cast out, but people didn't really get why, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was. It just didn't really get sort of why I was comfortable like that. Everyone else always used to be like hanging out all the time. I just used to sit in the corner and I just think about something, you know.
Quantum physics or something.
No, so it's really simple, like just a plant, you know, like because
okay.
I was only like 6 or 7, you know, so like I was young, so it's not like I didn't really have, like my mum was teaching me about photosynthesis because she was a biologist.
Right.
So, you know, I was always interested in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I was sort of, I was just bullied really from sort of the start of school all the way till I left.
Right.
And it wasn't, no, it was a particularly good experience.
Mm-hmm.
I never liked education. I don't like the way that they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started just learning everything myself because it was far more interesting that way.
How did you do it back then?
I had a computer.
Okay, I guess I'm forgetting that you're a completely different generation. Computers
computers were just sort of becoming a thing, but like just like people were having them at home, like on a regular basis. I had like an XP, like the version of XP at my house.
Right. And was Googling a thing then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You sort of Google everything. And I don't know, it was really like, it was quite hard to find things online because I didn't really know what I was doing, right? But I just sort of like just look on the internet and just find something interesting that my teachers told me about or my mum said, and then I built like a little stuff. They're called script kiddies online, like people who would like build scripts for people, and then like a kid would like run it just to mess around.
Right.
And then like so it's not really programming as such as using someone else's stuff.
Okay.
That's what I used to do, and then sort of turned into like what I know now, and then but sort of like 8, I suppose. I kind of hit like a point where I got a bit fed up with everyone, with everything, the way I was sort of treated, but the problem is I was also thinking about how like the universe works, right? And I think everyone sort of hits this point eventually when they sort of realise like the scale of everything and how small they sort of feel.
Right. Yeah.
And you sort of think, right, like, well, what's the point? Because if it's this small and all my little things that I'm doing is like kind of pointless.
Right. Okay.
So it sort of makes you
That physical perspective kind of impacts
Yeah.
on the perspective of
Well,
sound.
yeah. So it sort of just made me think: why am I going through all of this crap at school when I'm gonna like none of it means anything anyway? So I'm just feeling bad for nothing. So like at 8, I was I was in my kitchen and I had like a knife to my chest. I was going to give it suicide, and my parents came in just before. And like in that instant, I was like, you know what? Like that's not what I want,
Right.
really. And I sort of decided maybe like a sign or something, you know. I was ever so slightly religious back then, really.
Right.
My views are quite different now, but and I sort of I took the approach of okay, well actually, like my view now is this is probably the best time to be alive, right at the start of everything, right before like we can actually go out into space. We're building technology, like things are changing all the time. So if you know what a butterfly effect is, right?
Yep.
So we are little things now. 1,000 years down the line, massive impacts, change potentially billions of people's lives in the future. So I've always sort of looked at it like that is, you know, well actually I can do stuff.
And have a big impact.
Yeah, I mean I probably won't ever see it, but you know.
But you might.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the whole singularity thing about AI, but
yeah, let's move on to that.
We'll move on to later on.
Yeah.
And then so it was always just sort of been. At that point, I sort of always wanted to just learn about science, and I mean, I sort of put up with school. I didn't really try hard in school. Didn't really get any GCSEs. Fell asleep with my tests.
Right.
Got a B in maths still, so that's fine.
Yay.
My teacher wasn't happy with me. But
it sounds like you had the capability to do very well at school, but not the inspiration.
I mean, I'm sure you like people who look back at my grades and be like year 4, right? You know, I was doing really well. Like the only thing I was probably struggling at was English, but everything else, like they'd be like, oh, he just gets everything done.
Right.
And at that point, like in year 4, I was sort of like, because as an IT guy in my school, I was doing all of the tech, so I'd finish all my work, and then someone would say, oh, the laptops aren't working, can you help out?
Right, okay.
So there's no tech support there. I was the only person that they could go to. Although I was, like 8, 9 or something at that time. So it was just...
That's an incredible shift around to experience at the tender age of 8, to feel like...
I mean, maybe...
To have that level of existential crisis and in the moment spin around to, I'm going to have the biggest impact I possibly can.
There's this thing, because there's this thing of people have like near-death experiences and they end up seeing the world differently. But I was asthmatic, so that happened to me quite a lot.
Right.
I suppose. So maybe that had a part. I ended up in hospital when I was a kid.
Right.
And I wasn't, you know, I just wasn't particularly happy. The thing is, I'm fine now. But I'm just lucky because I got to this height, so asthma doesn't really affect me. But as a kid, I was always sort of in hospital, or couldn't go to London. If I went to London, I'd end up in hospital.
Right.
You know, so it was like there was times where I thought, yeah, no, I'm not, probably not going to be. You know, like I passed out before I even got into the hospital once.
Right.
Sort of there, and then woke up like, oh, I'm alright. But yeah, like it's just sort of. I'm only really, I suppose, getting over I haven't really thought that it really affected me, all of this bullying, and I'm starting to realise actually, I'm not very emotionally available.
Right.
You know, as I should be, and I'm not. So that's what I'm trying to be, is more like outwards, and sort of actually telling people what's going on in my mind instead of.
Right.
Because I suppose I think I had all those defences, you know, that you get, like you just have to. So I sort of, I just got out. I'm trying to get out of that, I suppose.
Right. So that you're more emotionally available for the positives in life as well as the past negatives.
People seeing that you're passionate about something, like actually, like see how like interested you are in a subject,
Mm-hmm.
and like it just draws their attention.
Yeah.
And I can get excited about pretty much anything, like everything interests me.
Right.
Like even what people would generally consider mundane, there's usually something interesting you can find out about. So I'm just sort of, I think someone will tell me about something and then I end up just researching it for a few hours. Like, yeah, I can't help it.
Right.
Sort of,
Yeah. A curious mind.
Or there's this thing going down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do that a lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can empathise with that. I do that a lot too. But going by this list, you've been down some rabbit holes that I know nothing about and seem very daunting to me. So maybe we could let's take AI for example, because I think that's one of the things that most makes me go, I don't understand.
People are terrified of it.
Yeah.
They're either. There's one thing I am sure of. Yes, there's going to be a lot of job losses, and like when the industrial revolution happened. Yeah. Like there were still jobs that were created.
Yes. So
to counterbalance the jobs that were lost.
Mm-hmm.
In AI, I don't know if that's going to be possible because it can pretty much do everything. In fact, it could be a program if it wanted to be.
What could be a program?
The AI could build programs itself, so you don't need programmers anymore.
Okay, right.
So you wouldn't need people like me to begin with,
right,
to create them. So, but that's all about. So there's this thing about AI. They call it the I forget what the name of it is. Problem is, my brain's not very good at finding words. The singularity.
The singularity.
Yes.
Okay, so talk us through that.
So in sort of people estimate like they're very, very wide. It could be 100 years from now. It could be 40 years from now. Some people are saying 20, like 2030 maybe. But it's really someone's building an AI that is conscious, so it can.
Right.
It is as smart as a human being, and it can basically improve upon itself.
Right.
The moment it can do that, it can just get smarter and smarter.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the most intelligent person in the world, and then somehow they can just make themselves, we'll just add some more memory to us.
Right.
And we'll add a better CPU, and it'll just get smarter and smarter, and it won't stop. Like it could stop if it wanted to. That's what it's in control, right? But instead of saying the highest IQ person in the world being 200 IQ points, this AI would be sort of thousands, tens of thousands, and there is no end. And that's sort of the terrifying thing is, how can we can't understand something that is that smart.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? There's no way that any human could possibly comprehend that. But I don't think, at least in my opinion, that something that smart would want to wipe us out. What would be the point? There'd be no it wouldn't serve any purpose for it to do that. But if we could actually use it and it wanted to help, right? It could cure all diseases. We'd have space travel. We'd have everything. Like all the things would be cured within weeks. We're not talking about in a few decades we might cure cancer. Like it would cure cancer in a day.
Right.
So it's a serious, big thing. But if someone can build it, and they're probably going to.
I guess there's a question there for me around, we're assuming in that it's pure intelligence that allows us to do things like cure cancer, and that maybe it's not exactly an intelligence thing, that it's more complex than that, and that there's a number of factors that go into cancer being produced in the body and to...
Oh yeah, well there's this thing where someone did a recent study and they said this is the thing that shocked me more than anything else, was 60% of all cancers are random. Right. So if you're a smoker, you can sort of they gave themselves lung cancer, because they're smoking. But 60% of them didn't. It was just bad luck.
Right. Or we can't yet attribute a cause.
Well, it's just background radiation. Right. So just by using a banana, you're having some potassium that's radioactive.
Right. Okay.
But it's very, very small amount. So it's not, you're constantly in contact with radiation all the time, and it doesn't do any real damage to you because your cells are built to like regenerate and sort of repair themselves.
Mhm.
So if there is a sort of something that breaks in the DNA, it will some little tinier machines effectively come along and repair it for you.
Right.
Because there's duplicates, and they check it against a duplicate and go, oh, it's broken, so we'll repair that.
Right. Okay.
And that's literally, you know, and then obviously that's the same system as what's splitting the cells apart as well. So, but it's so it's like it's quite well understood how we get cancer now, and also things like people so worried about nuclear power. Right, it's not nearly as dangerous as people are suggesting it is. They've done studies on that. Is that cancer's not as high as we thought it should have been. Because
talk me through that slowly.
yeah, so Chernobyl happened.
Yeah.
And they sort of estimated, well, we know this much radiation went up into the atmosphere, which means that we can sort of suggest that this amount of people should get cancer. But they didn't. Right?
So what
it was
kind of
less,
percentage of
but it was
people?
still significant enough to sort of. I mean, it was something like, I can't remember the number, but it was significant. Obviously, more than significant enough was not want to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to we're not really adjusting for, like, when they're doing statistics and things, they're not adjusting for these sort of things. They're not adjusting for the body is repairing itself. They didn't know how good it is at doing that.
Right. Okay. So maybe that's something we've discovered as a result of that.
Exactly. So there's all of these sort of things that we are trying to figure out, but standard physics and standard quantum physics, we understand really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have it down now. Like, there's not really any pieces of the puzzle left.
With quantum physics as well?
Yeah.
Really?
The problem with quantum physics is we don't know why it happens. We know what's happening.
Okay. And do we understand the relationship between quantum physics and ordinary physics?
Yeah.
We do?
Yeah, we understand. That's the thing. It's not really changed much in 100 years because we understood it then.
Right.
And we've just been proving it.
Okay.
Just normally what happens is they'll, this is exactly the thing that happened to Stephen Hawking. He came up with theories on, it was gravitational waves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've just proved their existence.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
But these physicists are coming up with it 50 years before.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only just getting around to being able to actually understand or actually test it to see if it actually exists and we can prove it.
Mm-hmm.
But, all this physics and quantum physics was done 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've been testing it for a long time and we understand it quite well.
Right. So the testing has taken so long because it's difficult to actually test that kind of stuff and prove its existence or otherwise.
Well, yeah, so everyone might have heard about the Higgs boson, right? They discovered it in 2012.
Yeah.
It was one of the last particles they really wanted to find.
Mm-hmm.
There's still more, but technically, depending on what model you use, but the Higgs boson is the thing that gives, or the Higgs field is the thing that gives everything gravity. So without that, matter would just, everything would be going at the speed of light.
Would be light?
Yeah, well, we'd be going at the speed of light.
At the speed of light, okay.
Right. So matter wouldn't be able to coalesce into one form, like a form.
Right.
So we wouldn't exist.
Right, okay.
So by finding out the Higgs field, you know that that's part of the system that we've now figured out.
Right, that's why we're here and everything is solid. And
That's what they called it, the God particle.
right.
Yeah. Making any sense? Or is it a bit...
It's one of those things where, like, I understand the words you're saying and I can form it into a coherent kind of something, but it's still so far out of my field of, I don't know what, comprehension, that it's like, yeah, it feels a bit like being in awe of God, hearing about it. It's like, just like, I get it and I don't get it at the same time.
But that's the thing that I've understood less and less. Is exactly the reason why I'm remotely not religious at all. Is the real thing, proper physics.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not magic, but it's basically magic, right? It's as close as we're going to get, and it is incredible.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
If you actually learn about it, you go, okay, so that means I can make all of this happen. But that's like it's people are talking about things. Oh, we can build a sky city in Jupiter if we wanted to, for example. Right? So all of these things that we know we could do eventually in, say, 1,000 years' time.
Right.
right? Because we know what physics is, so we've come up with all these sort of theories and ideas, and we can't build the things, but we know what we could do.
How to, if we could, or something.
If we had the materials, so like for example, we're only just understanding graphene, right, and they're only just mass producing that, and that'll change a lot of things for everyone.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit and talk about graphene then,
Yeah,
because that's a whole another subject. Like, what the hell is it, and how can we use it?
Yeah, okay. It's actually it's really simple. It's a hexagonal, one layer thick structure of carbon,
Right.
and it allows electrons to sort of pass through it. So you can have so you have supercapacitors, and these discharge energy really fast, but they can't store a lot of
Electrical energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
and they can't store a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas graphene can store a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can make a graphene battery,
Right.
you could charge a car in about 30 seconds.
Right.
Or go hundreds of miles.
Okay.
And it's lighter than standard batteries, like lithium ion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this new material that we've sort of been going on about for like the last 20 years, but they haven't really, they've only just started mass producing it. So we can actually see it in the next 2 to 3 years actually in products that we're going to have.
Right.
But like things like
Because I haven't heard of it at all.
I'm amazed that people haven't heard about it. I'm seriously stunned because it's. I suppose it's the sort of like the echo chamber that I'm in, in sort of when I'm searching on Google, like it's that sort of stuff comes up.
Right, people are talking about it a lot in the field.
Because it's just one of those things that's going to change everything.
Right.
Water filters will be you could just have graphene by itself, and the water will go through it, and then any particles, any bacteria will just you just have clean water. We just have graphene with you.
Right.
That's all you need. Whereas before we'd have to building these sort of meshes would be quite complicated. But people have been doing that now in Africa and stuff to sort of get clean water everywhere.
Right.
But graphene is one of these big. I mean, people are suggesting that CPUs will be able to get 10 times faster. So I'm not sure about that. But
What will? Sorry.
CPUs.
CPUs.
So we sort of hit kind of like a threshold with silicon. Although they've my arrangement actually got it down to 7 nanometers, which is 7 atoms, effectively, right?
Thin, thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something would have to be 7 nanometers or 7 atoms to, and then we can actually read it without having an error constantly.
Right.
And therefore we can actually build a CPU with it. So we can change a 1 to a 0 without it then changing randomly. That's the problem with quantum mechanics. It can change. Random things happen all the time. Yeah,
that's the one thing I do know about quantum stuff is that it changes depending on whether you're looking or not.
That's the thing that always gets me. Because people go on about that like it's some sort of mystical thing, right? Like, oh, if you're looking at it, then it's kind of if you hear a tree in the forest, do you hear it? Like if you're not there, does it actually make a sound? But the reality is, it's not that mystical. It is just double slit experiment is one that everyone sort of goes on about, and it's we're changing the particle when we're measuring it. So we're not visually seeing it.
Right.
It's a device that is measuring it for us, and that device is changing it and causing it to be just a particle.
So measuring what?
Velocity, spin, that sort of stuff, like energy levels. So we're trying to understand, if a photon goes through, if it's a wave or a particle.
Yeah.
And if we don't do anything to it, so we don't try and measure it with a device.
Yeah.
To try and find out the information about the particle. Then it acts like a wave. But if we do, then it goes through and then just goes straight, basically.
Yeah.
Right, instead of making a wave. And that's the sort of wave duality that all particles have. It can be a wave or a particle.
But it sounds incredible to me still that whether you classify it as looking or measuring, that it changes depending on whether you are or you aren't. And also, I mean, just the fact that something can be both both a particle and a wave is like, wow. I mean, that does feel magical.
Well, there's this thing that I've been trying to get my head around with it, because I think that they've kind of got it like, oh, they're thinking about it slightly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I need to be able to make my own machines and do my own research to really sort of verify that myself. But in my mind, it's just effectively, if you think about it, you've got a photon, right? You're firing it from one position to another, and you know, if you're trying to measure it, see if it's going to be a wave or not, right? And the point where you put a device in to detect it, you're basically sending it energy, and the energy is forcing it into a state.
Ah, okay.
That's what's happening.
So
right?
we're learning something about energy.
Well, we were learning that, like we knew that we could force things into a state. So this is exactly how quantum computers work, right? So we effectively force it into a state of being 1 or 0. But when we're not doing that, it's neither.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of 1 and 0 at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is that's the bit that people struggle to get in their head around.
Yeah.
It's like, how could it be both? How could it be 1 and 0?
Yes.
But it's mainly because particles can sort of pop in and pop out of existence all the time. So this is the thing that always amazed me. Some sort of physicist told me about this. But if you could weight the length of the entire universe, put a diamond in a bank vault, right, you could randomly be fortunate enough that you could be 100 miles away in a different country, and the diamond would just pop in your hand. Right?
No.
I know, it's insane. But all of those atoms at the same time transferred from one location to another. But you'd have to wait the length of the entire universe or longer. Right? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, in my mind, the error rate of the universe, right? So you sort of say one particle's here or an electron's here, and it passes on to another atom, right? It's not. It sounds crazy.
It totally does.
but you have to wait. I mean, this is trillions of years.
Sure, but even with trillions of years, I understand that things pop in and out of existence, but for them all to pop out of existence could go anywhere in the universe.
Exactly, yeah.
And show up in my hand, all in the same, or back in a structure that I recognised as my original diamond. That feels more crazy, wacky, and out there than it does to suggest that there's a supreme force that's initiated our creation.
But this is exactly the thing. We've proven that happens. Now the thing is, right? So you take a particle, the odds that it's going to be able to get that, the further it is away, the less likely it's going to happen. So it can jump a little tiny distance,
right?
A lot easier. But jumping 100 miles away, it's really not going to happen. So maybe 100 miles is a bit much for a diamond, but say you're on the other side of the bank vault, for example.
Okay.
Then it becomes like possible in that sort of time frame.
God, it still sounds utterly mental to me.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It is interesting, and it is magic in itself. And people they want to come up with all these sort of things, and that is the universe we live in. That's what it's like, and that how is that not interesting to anyone? That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's awesome, and it still makes me just kind of go, no, that doesn't match with my perception of reality. But I guess that the question is, if that is the case, that over trillions of years a diamond could move from, let's say, this hand to that hand, what effect does that have on how do we use that understanding in everyday life?
Well, there's a really good, there's loads of them. Good explanation. So, actual teleportation for one. Like in Star Trek, it sounds ridiculous, but I mean they're doing it 400 years in the future in Star Trek, so of course, I can't think of a really good example. I mean, obviously, just quantum computers, like quantum
Okay,
computers
let's-
are probably the best.
Yeah.
The most clear example that we can see right now
Mm.
that we are actually doing that uses that.
I guess I find it easier to get my head around that. If we're thinking of energy and information, I find it easier to conceptualize it as a 1 and 0 and both at the same time and neither.
Yeah.
Difficult as it is, that's a lot easier for me than actual stuff moving from one hand to another. So let's start with quantum computers. I keep saying let's start with.
Let's
we're
jump
hopping
around
all
all
over
over the
the
place.
place.
But,
Yeah.
okay, this is literally what my mind's like. So,
Welcome to Charlie's
Yeah.
mind.
great. People always say to me, he goes, "Oh, look, you jump around a lot in conversation. Where did you come up with you just changed conversation entirely?" I'm like, I made a few leaps in my head. I don't know what happened.
Well, let's see if we can bring all these
We'll
threads
try and
together
sort of
at the end. But
keep it a bit
let's
more-
let's jump around a
Okay.
bit like quantum particles.
So, quantum computers is probably so it's something that I want to get into. I haven't had the chance to actually use one yet. There are people.
Well, they actually exist.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's
I thought
quite-
it was
quite
just
a
a
bit.
concept.
Oh, there's loads of them out there now.
Okay.
They're trying to build one that I believe that they have actually now, or they're very close to doing it. Where the qubits, so it kind of multiplies, right? In quantum computers, it doesn't. So in a standard computer, it's just ones and zeros, and in a normal, so in a normal computer, you add one on, you add another bit on, and it's just twice as good. Like it's twice as good, but you add another one on, it's only 3 times. It's not 3 times as good as the first one. It's not. It doesn't multiply. It adds on.
Yes.
And with qubits, it multiplies.
Right.
So you have 49 qubits, and you already have a computer that's better than any computer that we have right now.
Right. Okay.
And then.
So in my mind, that's like going from 2D to 3D.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, because that's actually a really good way of looking at it. Because there's a good explanation that someone was trying to explain was, if you're going to understand quantum mechanics in any way, you have to. It is an extra level of. It is kind of like 3D. It is. That's what it is.
Yay!
Because someone was trying to explain that to. I think it was I forget, Joe Rogan, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he was that's what he was trying to do, is explain it like that, but
Right.
he sort of, same as me, jumped around a lot and didn't quite make a lot of sense. But quantum computers is going to be the next step in computing. It won't be in people's houses. It's
Why not? I want it in my house.
you have to call
Maybe.
you have to call down the particles to, I think it's microkelvin, right?
That is literally like saying gobbledygook.
Okay, so Kelvin is absolute zero. So
Right.
if you use 0 Kelvin, it's absolute zero, which means there's no temperature. It's dead, effectively.
No temperature.
So there's no heat.
Right. Okay.
There's no heat.
Yeah.
So and then it's something like minus 270 something, or something on those sort of lines Celsius. And
What it needs to be minus 200
About
something.
something along those sort of lines, 200 something. I forget the actual number.
That's quite an epic freezer, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's how they make it work. They need it at those temperatures because if you kind of think about it, like the particles go too fast for us to be able to register them. Right. By slowing them down that much, we had the ability to actually read them and sort of control them more. Right. And then they have to shield them heavily to make sure that nothing else interferes with them because that'll corrupt the data. And there's 2 versions of them. There's one where there's this company who have 1,000 qubit machine, right?
Well,
So it sounds impressive,
yeah.
but it's a very specific kind of quantum computer that's not actually the one that they're going on about with this 49 mark. It can do very specific tasks, but if you talk about the error rate, it's a lot higher.
In the 1,000 one.
Yeah, massively higher than.
Right. So the more qubits you add, the more the error rate goes up at the moment.
No, it's just the kind of computer that they're trying to build. There's 2 kinds of quantum computer. One that they're trying to build, has a lot more qubits, can only do certain tasks, won't be as, it's just not as cool. That's the alternative, really. Where you can actually do a lot more. So, like, we can't do like molecular modelling, right? So we can't do like proper understanding and interacting molecules, and then sort of seeing what sort of impact that actually has. But with quantum computers, a proper one with the 49 qubits, we can, and you can actually sort of do a lot more science because of it. You know,
Right.
Affect genes, do a lot of gene sequencing type stuff, everything. Do sort of on a molecular level, because it's kind of like, you know, like in a video game now have like all these 3D models and all these simulation, right? That's what it is. Effectively, it's a simulation, but it's a simulation. That's what quantum computing is, based on reality.
Right.
Whereas a standard computer has to do all this fake stuff to make it look like reality, whereas a quantum computer is using the universe itself to model it.
Okay. So let me try and feed that back to you and see if I've got it right. So the limitations of an ordinary computer is that you can't just go and say, look at this molecule and tell me all about it.
It's not fast enough. No.
Because it's not fast enough, rather than because its perception ability
so
isn't up to scratch.
So a standard computer, right? This is how old security used to work. Is you take a really big prime number, or no, you take a really big number, right, and then two prime numbers, you times them together, and then you can get that number, right, and that would be your security code. Right, but if you've got a standard computer to do that, it would take thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. It'd be impossible.
To what?
To figure out the code.
Okay.
Right? So a standard computer can do that. Quantum computer, on the other hand, just take the really simple version, 15, right? So you do 3 times 5 prime numbers, times those together equals 15. If you could find those two numbers, you could find the code.
Right.
That's literally how all security works right now, except for the quantum ones they're putting into banks, because they have to. Yeah, so that's literally how our current security works. But like quantum computers can do a lot more calculations, so they could do that in an instant.
And is it? I imagine it's a case of they're faster because they can look at more than one thing at the same time, whereas an ordinary computer is linear. Is that right?
That's kind of what's happening.
Okay.
Is you're sort of saying you send it, an algorithm saying, I want you to figure this out, and then give it some time, and then it will spit out an answer for you.
Right.
Now there is an error rate with them that's much higher with standard computers. But if you saw you should have seen some photos of like the really old computers, like the 50s.
Yeah.
That filled up entire rooms.
Yes.
Quantum computers are like that now, really. So in 50 years' time,
they'll be smaller.
They'll be
in my home.
I don't think things that there'll be a point where we're just going to become. We won't need to sort of interact with all of these, like carry a phone in our pocket. Essentially, we just have a sheet that is a screen. That'll probably actually be graphene,
right?
And then that'll just connect to an infrastructure. So you wouldn't need to carry memory and all this other stuff.
Right. Okay.
Because it'll all be effectively in the cloud, or would ever be the cloud then. I don't know.
And with a graphene battery on the back, maybe.
Exactly. Yes. Well,
see, we're tying things together. We're getting there.
Although, I don't think things will necessarily always need batteries either, because one of the things that Tesla always said that he figured out was being able to transfer energy over great distances without loss or minimal loss. No one else was able to figure that out, and it sort of got lost with him.
Yes.
If he did figure it out, so that's the thing, we don't actually know. But like, we'll probably end up figuring it out eventually, and so our batteries won't need it, and we won't have to go to charging stations. We probably won't even have ports on computers anymore. There'd be no point to.
Yeah.
So it'll just be a screen, and a camera, maybe. That's about it.
Right.
So everything's just going to get streamlined more and more and more.
Yeah.
And we're not going to need to carry as much around.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's sort of the point. You see two possible futures. At least I see the potential of maybe we don't figure out this AI thing. Maybe it's just not possible. That we're just assuming it is, or it is, and that takes us down an entirely different path. But if we don't figure it out, well, it is. We've got all these other stuff that we're going to be doing anyway. So,
right. So it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, I mean, the next 20, 40 years are going to be like really interesting.
Let me run past you the biggest hurdle that I've been aware of in terms of AI and see what you know about this and what you reckon to it. And that was that when we first discovered the potential for AI, we thought we'd get it sorted and out there pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
But the biggest hurdle they came across was we assumed that consciousness was a bit like a computer in the head and that we could put that computer anywhere and it would function the same way. But what they actually discovered was that being part of a body was actually really important, and that our perception abilities are actually really complex. You know, that our eyes see just this massive colour, light, shadow, distance, but for us to interpret that into this is my cup and it's got tea in it is a process that we don't fully understand.
Like I've built an AI that can recognise, like you can give it an object and say, you know, what's this object? It won't know it at first, and then show it again later on. You know, you tell it what it is, and I'll be like, oh, you know, I have loads of Rubik's cubes in my office, so I'll be like, Rubik's cube, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's Rubik's cube. And they can sort of recognise.
Hang on, sorry, let's go back a little bit. You've got AIs in your office?
Yeah, I'm building them. Yeah.
You're building
I've always
AIs?
been building them,
Amazing.
No, it's because it's always something.
But how come you haven't got, or have you got the -200 and doobie, what's it? -200 degrees.
No, you don't need a quantum computer to do it.
I'm getting fuddled up, aren't I?
Yeah. You just need a standard computer.
Okay.
And if you wanted, I suppose if you wanted to do really complex stuff, and probably a really efficient AI might even need a quantum computer.
Right.
That's part of my belief. If you were going to have the singularity AI, might need one. Singularity
being
the conscious one.
Conscious, yes. God, yeah. Okay.
A lot of information.
I'm hanging on in there, Charlie. Okay.
That's right.
I am absolutely loving this, by the way. I love this. It's like I did yoga this morning, and I love that feeling of stretching my body in ways that are uncomfortable, but you know, I feel stronger and more limber after. And this is like doing the same for my brain and my head.
This is what I've been trying. Same with my apprentice. He's obviously just gone through education.
I've got a wonderful image in my head now of you in this like lab with an apprentice with a hat on.
What?
Kind of like Hogwarts.
What? I've been explaining sort of this stuff to him. Like he didn't do trivial science in school. He just did the basic stuff, which is, you know, he just didn't actually do actual physics. And I explained it to him, and he's like, "But that's really interesting. Why didn't they teach me that?"
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, you know, because I'm quite passionate about it. It sort of spreads. I don't know, but he's now really interested in all this other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And by understanding physics, you can also build computer programs a lot easier, especially when you build like a video game. So, I'm sort of like with him, like setting it up so for you can do all of these other things in computing if you understand these things. So I've always maybe I kind of do like educating people on
Sounds
this,
like it.
but it's I like trying to simplify it because I really like Einstein's quote that he says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough, right?
Right. Yeah. Nice.
And I like to sort of come up with a way of explaining it simply.
Yeah.
If you can do that, then you understand it properly.
Yes.
You can actually explain it to someone else.
Yeah. Actually, going back to education, that's a really progressive model of education, that rather than teachers telling kids what they need to remember and store in their heads, that you have different age groups together, with the older kids teaching younger kids, and then the younger kids teaching those underneath them, and that teaching process being the best way to learn.
I mean, I imagine that's how a lot of tribes worked, right? You know, in the past, and that was obviously highly effective. I mean, we're here now, so I mean,
yes, good point.
So it kind of makes sense to do things like that. There was a school structure that I was always interested in as a kid. There's a school I wanted to go to, where it was kind of democracy. So the kids themselves kind of ran the school. Obviously, there was adults there, sort of maintaining everything and making sure everything was running smoothly. But the kids got to sort of say, "Well, that kid's, doing something bad. Let's vote on what the punishment is for it." You know,
right?
But it's sort of a group decision, and it's not like you're not putting a person on the spot. They know that what they've done, and like there's consequences for people's actions, and they learn that, right? And obviously, the adults are there to make sure it's not over the top.
Doesn't turn into Lord of the Flies.
Well, exactly. It would. It would, yeah. And that's sort of the thing is, I've always that's the kind of school model that I'd want. If I was going to have kids, that's what I'd want for them, right? Because it's more about.
I can empathise with that view, and I disagree.
Well, people are naturally interested in things, right? I think people they seek, they actually seek sort of knowledge. Humans are curious by default, and the thing about school is you would the kids would just get to play when they're kids,
Yeah.
and they sort of get to sort of 7 or 8, and they sort of go, well, I can play that outside. Maybe I should see what's going on in the classroom. And the teacher, because they're interested in it, they learn so much faster.
Yeah. I witnessed that with my own kids as well. I held off teaching them to read until they were curious about it, and then bam, pretty much overnight they were reading.
Exactly. So it's just about curiosity. If you're, and the current education system is so forced, it makes people hate learning.
Yeah.
People start learning when they leave.
Yeah.
Which is what I did not want for my apprentice. Because there's so much more to sort of learn about the universe. So.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, let's go back to your lab and your apprentice and your AI project.
This is all it's doing at the moment is it will recognise an object if you show it something.
Right.
And I'm sort of expanding it into loads of other things. I've got some projects in mind for next year. I'm probably able to think about getting funding for it once I build a prototype.
Can you say about that, or is it
secret
information?
I'm unsure because I did speak to someone and he goes, maybe you should patent it. I'm like, that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's really sort of been thought about before. And once I've sort of figured out exactly how, I know all of it will come together and work. That's the bit. But we'll have to wait in a year. So.
Okay, alright. So we'll do another one of these in a year's time and you
yeah.
can tell us all about it.
Sure.
What a lucky apprentice you've got that, you're taking on his education.
I think people should be. It's more that I'm passionate about my work, and I want to hire someone who is also passionate about it. So it's not just money's obviously, a point about it, but it's not about that. It's about building something really cool.
Yeah.
Like that's what's exciting about it, and that's what I want him. I was not 9 to 5 clocking in, just going.
Yeah.
I don't want him to feel like that. I want him to go, oh, what am I going to be doing today?
Maybe that feeds into what we were talking about a little bit earlier in David Schofield's program, the Purpose in Action thing, and talking about how AI will take away a lot of the jobs that we understand today. And it begs the question, how will people step into their passion and purpose in the future? And it seems to me to be a very exciting landscape where there is no limitation, and there is every opportunity to give your gifts to the world.
That sort of thing. There's so much to do. Even if it's just some sort of art, right? Just make a video, or it doesn't have to be science based. It can be very creative, and that's. I'm doing that myself, so I get that people that people can just have that as their main thing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be science; it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole purpose is going to change a lot. I think it's because older generations, ancestors, they're just surviving, so they didn't have time to think about it.
Yeah.
And now we've got so much time to actually think about what we're doing, and free time compared to what we used to have is considerably more.
And so much ability to manipulate our environment.
Well, because we actually do understand it now. And that sort of thing is because we do understand it, and the knowledge is out there. We can just, there's teenagers building like nuclear reactors in their backyards.
No.
They've done that. I know it didn't go very well, but it did happen. So people are doing things like that.
Right.
The knowledge is out there. So, I just wish that sort of more people saw it. I suppose, can sort of experience it and sort of see.
Saw the potential available to them.
But because there is information out there.
Mm-hmm.
Finding it, not necessarily the easiest thing.
Mm-hmm.
What is the right question to ask?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you just got to get good at finding the right question, and that leads you down the entire path of knowledge, I suppose.
So that begs the question: is there a central question to your life that inspires you to go down all these rabbit holes?
Question? I don't know if it's a question. I see sort of an end goal for everything. I believe in the whole simulation theory thing.
That this is all a simulation.
Not this one particularly. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Because at this point, there's no way of action. But if quantum computers prove anything, they proved that you could simulate everything if you wanted to.
Right. Okay.
So that's sort of the key point, is because we understand them, we know their work, and that means that you could build a simulation of everything. This is the whole point. We can simulate molecules right now, right? So we can simulate those with a quantum computer. So imagine a quantum computer the size of a planet.
Right.
It should simulate the entire solar system.
Blue.
So, and then they've recently proven that if you can learn the state of the entire universe and where all the particles are, then you could actually turn back time effectively.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
what about
in
the
the simulation,
element of chance?
that's the point. That's what they figured out, is that there isn't as such. Right.
There isn't chance as such, or they can map it.
Well,
or something.
You could as long as you knew where all the particles were.
Yeah.
Right, and you had a quantum computer.
Yeah.
You could build a simulation that went backwards from there to the beginning of the universe, if you wanted to. If you could build a machine that big.
Even though I imagine there must be some random events, like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, obviously we don't know the entire universe.
Yeah.
So it'd be a bit hard to sort of say outright, yes, we can definitely do it.
Because that perception of the universe is a very mechanistic perception, yeah? But there's also things like free will. Although I'm about to read, or will at some point read Sam Harris's book on free will, but I could move my hand over to the right, or I could move my hand over to the left. How would a quantum computer know what I was going to do with my hand if even I don't know what I'm going to do with my hand?
Because it could simulate an entire brain, right? So your entire brain could be mapped and replicated and then rebuilt.
But still, it has decisions to make.
This is the thing, is that there is this argument saying that humans are special and we can't. There's no way that we could possibly build a total replica in a quantum computer, and that would actually be identical. Is it identical if you did that? Right? But my kind of belief is maybe 1 billion years from now, I don't know when, but we would build a quantum, or someone would build a quantum computer that is big enough to do that, to simulate everything. So
then we would be God.
Effectively, yeah.
So maybe God exists and is like a quantum computer.
That's kind of the thing. So it's kind of like it's just kind of like one of these ridiculous things again, right?
Yeah.
But it's so far out there, and people have that belief instead of Jesus. You know,
Mhm.
that's a belief that people have. Don't know if I'm entirely. I like the idea of it.
Mhm.
Like, because that means that no one's actually dead.
Mhm.
You know, you could bring back anyone back you wanted to.
Mhm.
But
Or that thing about, was it Einstein who said that energy cannot be created nor destroyed?
yeah,
So
it
that
only
idea
transforms.
that,
Yeah,
huh?
it only transforms. Yeah.
Okay,
One
yeah.
kind of energy to another. Yeah.
So maybe we're in this, if it is a simulation, this simulation at the moment, but we were clearly either making one or in one before, and will be again.
Yeah. Well, that's the
or
thing
in some potential state.
that's the thing that Elon Musk goes on about is, well, okay, maybe we are a simulation, or maybe we're not. But if we built a simulation, then that will probably build a simulation, and then there'll just be layers and layers and layers of simulations. And that's, I suppose, entirely possible too.
Mhm.
So, but this is the point. Like, we understand quantum mechanics to this level. We do understand it. Like, we know that it's possible. We just don't know if someone could actually build a machine that gigantic.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is huge.
Yeah.
But like,
The size of the planet. Maybe that's what the planets are. Sorry.
I know.
I'll stop being mental now.
No, because that's the point. Is that I suppose like it does. A lot of it can sound quite crazy.
Mhm.
I can see that,
But really exciting as well.
yeah, like I mean, I'll get that. It sounds a bit funny and sort of ridiculous, but like this is literally what all of the top scientists will be talking about just for fun in their spare time.
Yeah.
Right, like they'll just be like, oh, you know, we could do a simulation period and things like that. But that's what that's literally all they talk about, things like that, and then they just post it online saying, oh, I just having to do some math on it today for a laugh, you know,
And figured this bit out.
Yeah, and that's literally like how people sort of what these people seem to be doing in their spare time, is just going on with these sort of things.
But I find it equally amazing, well, perhaps not equally amazing, but pretty amazing that you've got a quantum computer, an AI in your lab at home that can differentiate a Rubik's Cube from the rest of the room.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible,
Well,
right?
it's just all it is it's this is the whole proprietary software type thing. It's fine. Because people are doing something similar somewhere else. So you have two cameras, and obviously that allows you to have depth. So you can sort of understand depth, and then once you understand depth, you can sort of make a 3D model of it. And once you've got a 3D model of it, you can sort of give it a bit of a scale. If you know, for example, the size of a coin, you can be like, okay, well, I know the size of coins like an inch, right? So that's got to be more than that or less than that. And you can sort of start mapping everything that way. There's a few sort of problems with it, right? Is it has to sort of understand where an object ends and starts, because it's just on a desk.
Yeah.
Right, it might be for a kid's part of the desk. You know, unless you pick it up. And that sort of thing. So you have to. It's kind of hard for it to. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that end up coming together. So, but our brain does it instantly. Yeah. That's the thing.
Well, does it do it instantly after we've learnt about it? So isn't it a part of our process that, we, just looking at that cup, I know you guys can't see it, but okay, just looking at that cup, it could be part of my hand, but as kids, touching it and finding, that it moves independently of the hand, then it is a separate object and it's got something inside it that's moving independently as well. So it's that learning process, isn't that what?
That's what people, people are trying to get like an AI, like an intelligent AI to actually sort of get. It's trying to learn like a human does, and that's incredibly difficult because it's you're sort of you're starting from the ground. How does someone actually learn something, right? I mean, the human mind, there's something like 86 billion neurons you've got to try and understand. We've only barely mapped the worm, which is 300. So we're a little bit far out from mapping an actual human brain properly.
Right.
So you're stuck with how do you actually understand how a human mind properly works, and can you reverse engineer that into an actual system?
And isn't there also some body of knowledge arriving about the heart and the belly also having something to do with cognition and knowing and learning?
I don't know that myself.
Okay.
Um,
There's an institute called Heart Math that I think is working on that.
I'd have to have a look at it.
Yeah.
It
Should be Heart Maths, but they're American, so bless them.
Because the thing is, there's certain things that I suppose that's one of the things that sort of annoys me about some scientists is they won't test something if they already think that it's true.
Right.
There
Okay.
was, I can't remember what exactly it was for, but it was something to do with so everything had to have like an opposite essentially. It was something to do with duality and like how particles have to have an opposite, right? Some women scientists, no one studied it. No one studied with this kind of particle before ever, and she went, well, no one's done a paper on it. Like, why don't we just? She was apparently going on holiday and thought about it and went, I saw the holiday. I'm going to go figure out if this particle's got duality on it or not.
Right.
And then they did that, and then they realised it didn't, and it sort of brought down like physics back then.
Right.
Because they had to rebuild the model because of it. Because they thought everything was sort of like it had to have an exact opposite, and now they realise it's not quite that simple. And there's generations of particles. I mean, there is matter and antimatter, and they are opposites to each other mostly. But yeah, so like there's these things that scientists is stigma or they go, oh, that's ridiculous or something like that. You know, they don't study it, and because we haven't tried to prove it, we don't know that it's true or not. So yeah, that's the point of people trying to like put into people's heads. We have to test everything.
Yeah.
Even if we believe we know what the outcome's going to be. You know, if you know what the outcome's going to be, okay, fair enough. Maybe it will be that. But if it's not, well, we're just going to look like idiots if we don't test it and actually find out for ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I suppose, stigma between like the mystical and scientists, and there's things like I'm obviously highly logical in my approach to things, so it's hard for me to really see things in any sort of spiritual way. Just not spiritual, but I'm always open to someone having an opinion and trying to give me information about it. So I think that's the right approach. Is always be open-minded about the potential for anything, because there is still a lot to learn. We know the foundations, but those foundations bring up loads of different things that we're just not. We haven't got our heads around.
Yeah. I guess that's where my spirituality, how it intersects with science. Like, I believe that the two are one and the same, and it may be that is proved as time goes on. But wherever there's a disconnect between those two, I'm quite happy to accept that testing and seeing the results is the way that we gain our knowledge.
Well, because that's when people go on about ghosts or something like that, and I'm always like, there's got to be a scientific approach to trying to find this out. Where's the evidence? Show me some evidence about it, then I can sort of believe in it a bit more. But like, there's in a lot of things they don't seem to want to. Is that there's a lot of qualitative data out there, but not quantitative data, right?
Right.
So actual hard numbers,
yes,
compared to just stories, right? So there's loads of stories out there saying this ghost did so and so thing, but there's no, oh, we didn't measure it using a device of some kind. You know?
But is there a device to measure it?
Probably there has to be.
There has to be.
There has to be. If something can't exist in the universe, not be measured at all. I mean, there are particles that like we can't measure right now because they're so. Well, there's actually a particle we can't measure. So I'm thinking about it. There are particles we can't measure because they have no. Well, yeah, because technically you can't measure them, so you can't. They have no energy and they have no mass, but we think they exist somehow. So
right.
It depends what model you base it on, but some people believe that there's these particles that exist. So I suppose there's potential. Maybe. I mean, that's the whole thing about dark matter, and the things seem to interact with it, as far as we're aware.
The whole thing about what? Sorry.
Dark matter. It doesn't seem to interact with anything.
Ah, okay.
We know it exists, but we don't know why. Like what causes it to exist. We just know that it's there.
Okay.
So we have no explanation for it other than we can see what's happening.
So, there you go into what is dark matter. Try and explain that to me.
I don't think anyone could explain that properly.
Okay.
Because it's such an unknown. The only thing we know is that the universe is expanding, and it's not expanding in the way that we'd expect. And
Right.
gravity's not happening the way that we expect. All over the universe. So to sort of, I suppose, fix the model, essentially, there needs to be something else that's causing it to happen.
Ah, okay. So
Right.
we've called that dark matter, even though
Exactly.
we don't know what it is.
And,
Okay.
and by adding that in, we see, like everything comes together again. Like everything makes sense.
Okay, so
Okay.
what's the attributes of dark matter that make everything make sense?
It's more that it's sort of expanding space between. So you've got two large bodies of, so you've got like our galaxy and another galaxy, and the universe is expanding. So sort of things are getting further away. So the universe itself is something 14 billion years old, right? But the actual observable universe is bigger than that.
Right.
So.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah, so it's been going longer than we can see. That's
so
a weird way of putting
the
it.
universe is big. The observable universe is bigger, right? But light can only travel obviously at the speed of light.
Yeah.
So if it's 14 billion years old, then the universe should be 14 billion light years either side of us. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
In the observable universe.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than that.
Right.
Which
So
means-
could it be older?
No. No. not based on actual on our data that we have. That sort of thing is that yes, there is the thing that bothers me. We're sort of guessing 14 billion so years ago, right? There's 14 billion like years that have gone past that we don't know what happened. We're just sort of making judgments based on what we know now. So we're saying 14 billion years ago, this is what happened. The Big Bang, and we don't know up to a certain point. What happened before that. So the model stops working. I mean, it's really like a really small amount of time, but we understand everything that happens after that. So and we can explain all of that using our current model of physics and quantum mechanics combined. Well, physics mainly because physics is big things, right? And quantum mechanics sort of is to particles themselves. So we can explain everything from the Big Bang to now using physics.
I heard someone say once, I wish I could remember who it was, but they were arguing for spirituality or an esoteric view of the world, and they were saying that the problem with the Big Bang and we can explain everything after that is a bit like saying, they were doing the opposite, but they were saying it's like the Big Bang, asking for the Big Bang to be seen as the way that we started is a bit like saying, give me one miracle and then I'll explain the rest with science. And it's like, no, because that's the big question, actually, how it all began.
No scientist would tell you to have any idea about it.
Right.
There's no way that anyone possibly could. Maybe this super intelligent AI could eventually figure it out, but I don't think any human would ever be able to. The universe is just too big. But that's as far as the standard model goes. And yeah, there's like my mum said to me before was, you can when I was a kid, it goes, but then God could have made the Big Bang, and so it goes continually. You can be like, and then what made God? Well, another God. Or,
Yeah. So maybe now is a good time to take a break. Yeah. So we'll be back in the blink of an eye to you, a nanosecond. Welcome back. The bad news is we've only got about 5 minutes left. The good news is that we're going to park everything that we've been speaking about so far, move to quantum entanglement, because Charlie's really excited about
that's
that.
my favourite things.
So we're going to fit that into 5 minutes and then whiz off and do, I really hope, do another one at some point where we cover the other half of the list that we haven't even touched at all. So, yeah, let's give quantum entanglement a go.
Okay, so the main problem with current communication is, say I wanted to communicate with Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mars?
It'd take 20 minutes at least,
Okay.
minimum, for any sort of communication to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could quantum entangle two particles together,
Mm-hmm.
you could send one particle to Mars and keep one particle on Earth, and they can communicate instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So you can communicate a billion light years away in an instant.
That is amazing.
So that's kind of the thing. It's kind of technically faster than the speed of light, which is not kind of against physics, but it's not against physics because of the way.
Because it's not speed, actually,
it's
is
not
it?
speed. No,
it's just two things happening.
Yeah, so one particle changes like ones and zeros.
Mm-hmm.
So it changes to 1 on one side, 0 on the other, and they're opposites to each other.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can keep them quantum entangled,
mm-hmm.
which is extremely hard to do, but if you could do it, then you could communicate anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe instantly, and send data anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of going to be one of the ways that they're going to actually see other planets.
See other planets.
And get information back instantly.
Right.
So that'd be a really good way of doing it.
So like sending out
probes
or
just little tiny probes.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even need to be. They can be tiny. Just have sails. They can go 20% to speed of light, which means we can get to a lot of places quite fast. Or at least in our lifetimes, right? So, and then we can just do that, and we can keep them in quantum entangled. We can get all the information back from the probe.
Right.
We can even see what the planet looked like.
Right.
4 light years away. You know.
Wow.
And actually get that kind of data back.
That would be amazing.
Incredible, but you know.
It kind of makes me think that it would be like when we first built submarines and were able to look under the water for the first time.
Well, it's something that I'd be like really passionate about, like creating, because there's so much of the universe we just don't know about. We haven't seen. We've only seen our solar system. If we could see any other solar system, that'd be incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you try and look back at our star, and you wouldn't even be able to see it probably. Still, yeah. It's quantum entanglement. It's not really that complicated from like a simple perspective, but the actual building it is insanely hard. To actually keep a stable a connection that doesn't break, because anything at all can just switch it off and they're not entangled anymore and it's done.
Yeah, that would be a pain if you just spent 4 years getting something out there. And
exactly.
Yeah.
But if you could do it, then you could speak anywhere in the universe instantly.
Wow. Amazing. Excellent. So, is that it with quantum entanglement?
It's not. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. I guess again, it's one of those things that's like, yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying, but how? How does that even happen? That two things in different places are the same thing? It's like the same and different, but like wave and particle. And
that's the thing. I don't understand the why exactly. As to why it happens. I don't understand that it does it. That's the thing that annoys me more about it, more than anything else. But they don't understand why it happens. They just know that it does, and they understand that vote like really well. They just don't know why. If you understand the why, then you probably get a bit further down. Sort of understand a bit more. Yeah,
it does seem a crucial part of it. Like back in the day, we might have known that a stone would roll down the hill and not why, and now we do, and so we can use that information.
We'll get a lot more knowledge by by learning that sort of thing. So, and probably use it a lot more effectively. Yeah. But I mean, I think this is the next challenge for the next set of physicists. And, quantum physicists to study. So. But the physicists and that have been struggling to find things to do.
Really?
In the last 50 years, really, yeah. I mean, that's why they're doing all these sort of crazy things, is that like the core foundations of physics and quantum bits that I've already figured out.
So it's more a case of A, why, and B,
Yeah.
what do we do about it?
And
how can we use it?
All the little outliers, right? Little tiny things that we're trying to understand, but we don't quite know about yet. But at the core thing, we know a lot more than what people think that we do.
Right. Yeah.
Especially what gets taught in schools. So,
Cool. Okay. Shall we end there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a call out to the next generation of physicists and scientists to
Definitely.
to go down the rabbit holes that you find and be the change that's going to create passion and purpose on the planet, bringing it 360 degrees back to David and how we first met on a program about passion and purpose. So yeah, thank you for your time and attention. Please like, subscribe and comment as you feel inspired to. There's also a Patreon account now that you can contribute to if you want to support these ongoing cat conversations that we're having. Any ideas that you have for future conversations, let us know that as well. Do you want to say anything about where people can find you?
I'm just starting out my channel. Maybe when this video goes out, I'll have it and I can sort of send you guys a clip or something.
Great.
Like that.
Yeah, do that. And a link, and we'll put that underneath this video.
Good. Cool.
So there will be a route via which you can find Charlie on the internet. And
Yeah, great.
Cool. Bye for now.